You certainly never have to wait until the beginning of a new year or month or week in order to make any sort of change in your life. But it's completely normal to find yourself being inspired by the promising tradition or ritual of leaving an old year in the past and welcoming a new one in. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Greer and it's lovely to have you here with me today. First of all, a very happy new year to you. I hope that 2023 is good to you, that success is on the horizon, that you continue to live mindfully and take good care of yourself. I'm really looking forward to building this Shades of Greer community here on YouTube this year. So if you're in it with me for the long run, which I hope you are, then remember to subscribe to the channel, as that helps me greatly and it means that we as a community can have an even wider reach here on the platform. While we're on the subject of the new year, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, New Year's resolutions. Now, I know that this is something that people tend to scoff at, myself included. This idea of creating resolutions at the beginning of a new year has in many ways become a cliche and is often a marketing ploy for companies who want to sell these products and programs that are supposedly going to make our lives better and transform us in some way. Now, you certainly never have to wait until the beginning of a new year or month or week in order to make any sort of change in your life. Every day is an opportunity to do that. But it's completely normal to find yourself being inspired by the promising tradition or ritual of leaving an old year in the past and welcoming a new one in. So by all means, make those resolutions, set those goals, and define the behavior changes that you want to see, whether that's learning a new skill or trying out a new fitness routine, or maybe you just want to spend less time on your phone and more time out in the world. Whatever it is, I applaud you, because the first step is acknowledging that there is room for growth. But of course, it's not enough to simply acknowledge that we want to make those changes. We actually have to do the work. But it's often in that process that we miss the mark and we end up not keeping those resolutions. So today, I want to talk about 4 ways that we can set ourselves up for success as we work towards those resolutions, those goals, and those habits, whether it's a new year or just another day in your life. The first is to set specific and realistic expectations for yourself. What happens sometimes is that we set resolutions and goals that are either too vague or too drastic. Let's look for a second at some of the most popular New Year's resolutions that people set for themselves. Lose weight, eat healthily, save money, drink less alcohol, and quit smoking. What do all of those have in common? For the most part, they're not specific enough. Let's look at eat healthily, for example. What that means to you could be completely different from what it means to me. Our bodies are different. What works for that fitness guru that you follow on Instagram or your friends may not work for you. And on a day-to-day basis, you can't just look at the blanket statement, eat healthily, and know exactly when you've made progress on that. So you might say to me, okay, Greer, I'll make that a little more specific and I'll say I'm going to cook a healthy meal for myself at home every day. It's specific, and if you are someone who enjoys cooking and if that's achievable for you, then go right ahead. But what happens if you are somebody who orders out a lot, who does not know many different recipes or simply does not have that kind of skill in the kitchen? You can't expect yourself to suddenly stop ordering out and become Anthony Bourdain in the kitchen at the drop of a hat. It's just not going to be doable for you. It's too drastic of a change. So what will happen there is you'll create a lot of resistance and friction between yourself and what you'd like to achieve, because you're putting pressure on yourself first of all, and you don't really have a specific plan for how you're going to achieve it. So you might say, okay, I've made my specific goal, but I also need to make it realistic for myself. So I'm going to learn 2 new recipes this month, and I'm going to cook for myself at home at least twice a week. And those are going to be healthy meals that I make. Let's look at another example and say that you've decided you want to read more, and you're going to make that more specific and say you're going to read 10 books a month. If you are a voracious reader and that sounds like a walk in the park to you, then by all means, go ahead and do that. But what if you're somebody who in the past has had a hard time reading through an online article? Chances are you're not going to finish a book like The Lord of the Rings within the span of a week. What you could do is say, okay, I am going to read a chapter of a book every night before I sleep. or I'm going to read a few pages, maybe 10 pages, 20 pages. Well, what you've done there is you've created a specific goal that you can measure. You're starting small, and in that way you're more likely to sustain that behavior as time goes on. The second method is to be patient, and that means that you shouldn't be chasing instant gratification. What happens sometimes is that we create unrealistic time frames in which we expect ourselves to achieve a goal because we want results and we want them now. That is instant gratification at its finest, and that is the world that we live in many ways. You're craving a food right now, you can have it at your door within an hour. You want to watch an entire season of a television show, it's on Netflix. No need to wait every week to see a new episode. And I can just hear you now. If only it could be that easy when it comes to changing a behavior. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. You have to be willing to stay committed and work through those difficult moments where you are seeing little to no results, especially at the beginning. And you may be asking, well, what can help me with that process? What is going to help me persevere through those difficult moments? And that takes me to my third point, which is to practice discipline. Now, I know the word discipline for many people can have a negative connotation. When I think of discipline, one of the first things that comes to mind is, being in high school and the teacher threatening to punish you if you weren't wearing your ribbon or you were walking on the wrong side of the corridor. We associate discipline with everything that is sort of strict and authoritarian. But what I'd like to do is offer you a different perspective. Look at your discipline not as something that you could potentially be punished for if you don't have it, but instead as the self-control and the self-regulation that will help you to persevere through those uncomfortable moments of changing a behavior. Let's say that you've decided that you need to learn more about personal finance and that you'd like to learn how to make a budget for yourself. So you've decided to take an online course. So you start the course, but you find that you're having a hard time paying attention. You'd much rather be watching 30-second doggy daycare videos on TikTok because those give you instant dopamine hits. Unlike this 30-minute long lesson on budgeting and personal finance, which you probably won't see results from until you actually start putting your new skills into practice. But if you have the ability to self-regulate, if you have that self-control, you can say to yourself, listen, I'm doing this for a reason. I'm going to be better at the end of it as long as I see it through, and I will have taken a step in the right direction. But that's the ideal situation. Maybe you do get lured away by your phone. You start to get distracted and you're talking down on yourself because you are not making any progress in this course, and you decide, look, I just can't focus, I'm not meant to do this, and you give up. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, makes a point that I think really illuminates what I'm trying to explain to you, which is this. Too often we fall into an all or nothing cycle with our habits. The problem is not slipping up. The problem is thinking that if you can't do something perfectly, then you shouldn't do it at all. You probably will have those slip-ups, but it's not the end of the world, because as long as you have that discipline, you'll be able to put yourself back on the right track. The fourth method is to take advantage of identity-based habits. Now, this is another concept that I learned from Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it explains that if you see a behavior as part of who you are, then it is more likely that you're going to do it. And because our identities are more or less consistent, this makes it easier to incorporate and sustain those behavior changes over time. Let's say, for example, that you've decided that you want to do a better job of keeping in touch with family because maybe they've said that they don't hear from you enough. If you see yourself as the kind of person who values family, who really sees family as an important part of your life, then it's more likely that you're going to take the actions that align with that part of your identity. You're going to call them, you're going to send a text here and there, you're going to make an effort to actually see them when you can, because you want your behavior to be in harmony with your identity. Another positive of having resolutions and goals and habits that are rooted in your identity is that this protects you from being motivated by the wrong reasons or being motivated solely by external sources. So if you've decided that you want to spend more time meditating, it's not going to be because meditation is the latest trendy, cool self-care thing to do. It's going to be because you understand and value the peace and awareness that come from the practice of meditating and you know how that benefits you. If you've decided that you want to spend more time in the gym, it's not because you want to have a body that other people are going to be jealous of, or because society or your friends or family told you that this is how your body is supposed to look. It's going to be because you are someone who values being active and taking care of yourself, and there's some kind of change that you want to see, but you're making that change for you and not for anybody else. Now, it's all well and good to have these mindset shifts, to set realistic and specific expectations, to be patient, to practice discipline, and to channel intrinsic motivation through identity-based habits. But if you don't have a system in place that allows you to track your progress and stay organized, chances are you're going to compromise on that progress that you want to make. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at a simple productivity system with 3 basic building blocks that will allow you to stay organized and track your progress while you're working towards your goals. If you found any of these tips helpful, remember to leave a like, subscribe, comment, and let me know what you're going to be working toward this year, and if there are any methods that you use for keeping your resolutions, building new habits, and ultimately achieving your goals. I'd love to hear some of those. So take good care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.